Roy Thomas Baker's production credits pretty much read like a playlist of the soundtrack of our lives. Think of the albums he worked on in the 70s and 80s especially. We're talking Queen, their first 4 albums, plus another one after that. The first 4 albums from the Cars. He worked with Foreigner. He worked with Steve Perry's first 2 albums with Journey. So he's done a ton of stuff over the years. Unfortunately, he has just passed away. It was announced a couple of days ago. He actually did pass away earlier this month. So we're going to take basically do a special edition of Platter Chatter and say R.I.P. to RTB. This is a talk about what goes on inside the grooves. It's a program we call Platter Chatter. From the set of Goin Vinyl, this is another edition of Platter Chatter, the web series that features classic trends and classic tracks. I'm your host, Bill Robert, and before we get going, I'd just like to ask you a quick favor here. Obviously, this is on YouTube, so I need you to hit that like button, like the video, obviously, so we can get it out to you. You can basically see more videos like this. But also, make sure you hit that subscribe button, too, so that way you can watch the content anytime you want. We've got more Goin Vinyl coming up. We've got more Platter Chatter coming up, so always something going to be coming up on the channel, so make sure you subscribe and get in on that. By the way, if you look for us on YouTube, it is at Goin Vinyl. Also, you can find us on Facebook. Our page there is Goin Vinyl TV. And if you're thinking about maybe a subject that would be good on this show, maybe you have a suggestion, well, all you have to do is either hit me up in the comments here, or you can send me an email. The email address is billthedj@goinvinyl.com. All right, so today we look into the career of Roy Thomas Baker, or as he was commonly known, RTB. Now, Roy Thomas Baker started basically in late 60s, early 70s, doing engineering stuff and then producing albums. And I mean, just his production credits. I mean, you think about Queen's first 4 albums, Queen, Queen 2, and Sheer Heart Attack, and also he did jazz later on too. I mean, he did a ton of their stuff. Some classic things. He did A Night at the Opera, Bohemian Rhapsody, that was him. Keep Yourself Alive, that was him too. I mean, the Cars, he did their first 4 albums. Everything from the Cars, Candy O, and then Panorama, and actually not Since You're Gone, that's the single, but To Shake It Up is the actual album there. So tons of classic tracks off that one too. And then he also worked with Foreigner. He did the Head Games album, and he did Steve Perry's first 2 albums with Journey. We're talking Infinity and Evolution. And at that time, he's doing things like Lights, Wheel in the Sky, and of course the classic Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'. So today we're going to basically do a special episode of Platter Chatter in honor of the man Roy Thomas Baker, the man, the producer, the legend. And what better way to start off a Roy Thomas Baker retrospect, shall we say, than with these 2 words: let's go. That was the lead track off the Cars' second album, Candy O. That was Let's Go, was the lead track, obviously, first thing on side 1. Great, great record. In fact, there are so many great ones on that record. Double Life's a great one. Dangerous Type's probably my favorite one off the album. Some really good stuff out there. But once again, all produced by Roy Thomas Baker, as was the first album. And originally I was thinking, well, we could do something off the first album, but we did that in an episode of Goin Vinyl, so I'm trying to keep, like, I don't want to repeat the same show. Even though we're going between shows here, I don't want to be repeating the same stuff. So that's why I decided to go with something off of Candy O. So there we go. So I mentioned that he did the first 4 albums with the Cars. He also did the first 2 albums of Journey, not the first 2 Journey albums ever, but the first 2 Journey albums in which Steve Perry was the lead vocalist, obviously. He started there, and pretty much right away he became renowned as like one of the top singers in the country. And we're going to give you probably one of those best early songs. I mean, he hits it with the energy, the emotion, and that voice can just go so high. Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'.
'Cause he's loving who he's touching, he's squeezing another. He's tearing you apart. Oh, every day he's tearing you apart. Oh, girl, what can you say? 'Cause he's loving, touching another.
What a classic. That was actually my first exposure to Journey and Steve Perry was that song. Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin'. And just, I mean, obviously he is such a legendary voice and that song really is an indicator of why that is, especially in the chorus. He's hitting the emotion, he's hitting those high notes and he is just absolutely going nuts with it. Journey with Steve Perry and our tribute to producer Roy Thomas Baker. He also worked with Foreigner. He only did one album with them, but it was a pretty big album for them. It was Head Games and there were 2 singles off that one. There was Dirty White Boy, obviously, but then there was the title track, which wound up being a top 20 hit here in the U.S. From the album Head Games, you guessed it, this is Head Games.
Been a long night, and something ain't right. You won't show how you feel. No time ever seemed right to talk about the reasons why you and I fight. It's high time to draw the line, put an end to this game before it's too late. Head games, it's you and me, baby.
So there we go, Foreigner with Head Games. Now before we played Lovin', Touchin', Squeezin', and I was going all over the place about Steve Perry. Oh, he's a great singer. He's got such a great voice. Well, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't give kudos to Lou Gramm, the Foreigner, as well. Another fantastic singer. In fact, the first thing I ever heard from them was one of their first big singles, Cold as Ice. I loved it then. I loved it now. And I think Lou Gramm has just such a terrific voice. Even after he left Foreigner, because he left after, he had the big ballad hit with I Want to Know What Love Is. And after that, things between him and Mick Jones were getting kind of dicey. So he left and actually wound up putting out his own solo album, and he had a couple of hits. Midnight Blue was one of them. Another one is a great one too, Just Between You and Me. So Lou Gramm, definitely a great singer over time. Now, we mentioned Foreigner and Roy Thomas Baker. This is why we're here. We're doing a special tribute in memoriam of Roy Thomas Baker. And I've gone ad infinitum about this. He's worked with Queen. He's worked with Foreigner and Journey and the Cars and just all these really mainstream, really popular rock acts. In fact, this was the album that he did with Foreigner, Head Games, okay? So we go from this, okay, and the next Roy Thomas Baker song that we're going to feature comes from an album that looks like this. Yes, he actually worked with Devo. Only one album, but this one, it's one of my faves. It's Oh No, It's Devo. And obviously they've got the things here. They're not wearing the energy domes like they do in the cover of Freedom of Choice, but nonetheless here they have the sputtering collars here, part of the classic waves of Devo merchandise available at the time. And we're going to play a song off this one. It's going to be my favorite song off this one, Peekaboo.
Peekaboo, I can see you, and I know what you do. So put your hands on your face and cover up your eyes. Don't look until I signal. Peekaboo, peekaboo.
Devo with Peekaboo. Yeah, if you think of Roy Thomas Baker, that's probably not the first song you put in his repertoire, but no, he was a producer for that. He worked with Devo on that, and once again, it's a pretty fun album, and it's one I enjoy. Oh No, It's Devo, once again, as we continue our tribute to Roy Thomas Baker. Now, I've mentioned, once again, quite a bit some of the other groups he's worked with. He also did now with Motley Crue. He's done like a bunch of others, too. But the one I've mentioned, but I haven't played yet, is Queen. Obviously, you know, people say, oh, well, you mentioned Queen. He did 5 Queen albums. How come you haven't mentioned any of those? Well, we're going to remedy that right now. I figure we finish big, finish with a Queen song, get some Freddie Mercury in there. And for those of you expecting Bohemian Rhapsody, yeah, it's a pretty big one, and it's a classic, and it is actually on one of the albums that RTB did. It was a Night at the Opera. However, I'm going to, basically he did the first 4 albums, and then he didn't do the next 2, and then he came back for their 7th album, Jazz. This is a song that comes from that album. It's also probably my favorite Queen song of all time, Don't Stop Me Now.
Stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time, having a good time. I'm a shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger, defying the laws of gravity. I'm a racing car passing by like Lady Godiva. I'm gonna go, go, go. There's no stopping me. I'm burning through the sky, yeah. 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit.
Don't Stop Me Now. Having such a good time. I'm having a ball. And I'd like to take this moment to thank Roy Thomas Baker for all the good times he gave us listening to records, having a ball, as it were. Some great music, and really, you know, his legacy is pressed basically into the stories of our lives. You think of, you know, growing up and all those great songs that became I mean, it's still things that, you think of it and it's playing in your head nonstop within like 2 seconds or so. Once again, just thanks and our condolences to the family of Roy Thomas Baker, and rest in peace, Roy Thomas Baker, a classic producer who made some classic records. And that'll wrap up this special tribute edition of Goin Vinyl. I'm your host, Bill Robert. We'll be back with more. Don't forget to tune in for our next episode. And by the way, you can keep with us on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@GoinVinyl. You can also check with us on Facebook. We've got a page up there too, Goin Vinyl TV. And if you have an idea for a future episode of Platter Chatter, or maybe even a record to suggest for an upcoming Goin Vinyl, which is our main show, all you have to do, either hit me up in the comments here, just leave a comment, or you can email me. It is billthedj@goinvinyl.com. Until next time, thank you very much for tuning in to this edition of Platter Chatter. I'm your host, Bill Robert.